It's up!
Drop it like Donald Trump's net worth. It is a great day in the news and a great day to join us here on the Power Panel. I am John Arola, very lucky to be joined on the program today by, to my immediate, your left, I guess, Francesca Fiorentini, the Bitchuation Room. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
I see you're wearing festive colors for this celebratory day.
Yes, I am. I have planned this.
Thank you, awesome. Okay, and to the more left of you, Trey Crowder, comedian, host, often guest on the Damage Report as well. Trey, it's great to have you here.
Yeah, long time no see, buddy. That's a joke because I saw you yesterday, but it's good to be back.
It's good to have you here. We had talked a little bit about the forthcoming verdict in the New York civil fraud lawsuit yesterday. Well, now we have it, and don't worry, everyone. We're going to be getting to that in just a sec. But in addition to that, and a wrinkle in that story that I was telling Edwin before the show, I think sometimes Donald Trump does stuff just for me. Like he does what I would want him to do, and I have an example of that on today's show. We are, of course, going to be talking about Alexei Navalny's tragic passing and some of the reactions to that. Updates on what's going on in Georgia in terms of Fani Willis and that investigation, the updated testimony there, and there's just been this AI video bombshell dropped in the last 24 hours, and we're gonna be taking a look at that and what that potentially means for America. So all of that to come, and that's just the first hour. Obviously stick around for the second hour because it's gonna be a lot of fun, and hit the like button as we launch into this first story. Judge Arthur Engoron has ruled that Donald Trump is going to owe, in the New York civil fraud lawsuit, $355 million. And that is just for starters. With interest, that could well hit $400 million. And a number of other people in his orbit are gonna owe money. A number of people, including Donald Trump, are gonna be banned from participating in businesses in New York. We're gonna give you all of those details. But before we get into those, in addition to the monetary penalty, I wanted to give you a quote from the judge who said this about Donald Trump and the other defendants in this case. Their complete lack of contrition and remorse borders on pathological. Defendants are incapable of admitting the errors of their ways. And that is a quote from Arthur Engoron on this case, but I also think it nicely summarizes like this whole time in American politics, the whole Trump thing, the MAGA thing. Write that someday on the gravestone of Donald Trump and that political movement. But they wouldn't admit that they were wrong, and that remains true after this verdict has come out. We're gonna have Donald Trump as well as his lawyer, Alina Habba's reactions to this, so stay tuned for that. But first, we wanna give you a little bit more information about what actually happened. So they did this exhaustive survey of the Trump organization, its finances, the way it was valuing properties, and they found a number of different problems. So between 2014 and 2021, they estimated that Donald Trump overvalued his assets by just a little bit. $800 million to $2.2 billion, which obviously has massive implications on things like taxes and insurance and ability to get loans. So later on, when we go to Donald Trump saying that it doesn't matter that he's done this, just bear in mind, that is not a small thing. He didn't kind of break the law here in terms of fraud. He broke it about as thoroughly as anyone, at least in New York history, ever has. So kudos to Donald Trump on that. But we want to get into the penalties. They're large and exhaustive. And in addition to the financial penalties, the Trump organization is going to have to obtain prior approval, not as things are now, subsequent review from Judge Barbara Jones, who's been an independent monitor of the organization for some time. That's going to go on for 3 more years. So to try to stop them from continuing to misrepresent in epic fashion the value of their assets, they basically have someone who's chaperoning them as they continue on kind of as a business. So a little bit embarrassing there. And also, on top of the $355 million for Donald Trump, Eric Trump is gonna have to pay a little bit over $4 million. Donald Trump Jr. is gonna have to pay more than $4 million. Alan Weisselberg, former, I believe, CFO of the Trump org, is gonna have to pay $1 million. And there's obviously consequences beyond that. But I wanna give our panel a chance to jump in. So Francesca, I'm gonna start with you. This is about as high as anyone thought it was going to be. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's a good day. And look, I think it's wonderful that Donald Trump is, I mean, arguably he's been convicted of his favorite kind of crime, white collar crime. We all know he loves the whites, right? And so he's got it, there he is. And I also find it so funny that like every single step of the way in this trial, they screwed themselves and made themselves so unlikable to the judge. They did everything the judge asked them not to do, even in the closing arguments. Hey, don't turn this into a campaign speech. That's exactly what he did, and Donald Trump was shut down. Like, hey, lawyer for the defendant, don't go outside and like start squawking to the media about how this is a rigged trial. Like all of these things got you to that figure of, whatever the 300 and what are we doing, $54 million, and then some with all the interest. And then my favorite part is the implications, which is like he might have to sell off his property, right? Like this is, and no one is going to be buying Mar-a-Lago for what, $1.8 billion. That's what he's, it's worth 10 times that. Like, so they said it was between 18 and 28 million. That was the Palm Beach County property appraiser. And he said it was worth 1.8 billion. Nobody, it's not. I am very excited for the, I don't know, the Cameo accounts, heaven forbid, the OnlyFans accounts that are to come.
Yeah, I mean, I think on that note, I was going to say $354 million. How many digital trading cards of himself with abs is he going to have to sell to the rubes to cover that? You know what I mean? You got to fire up another grifting campaign. Not that those ever stop. You know what I mean? But I really appreciate that quote from the judge about it being a pathological inability to accept any kind of responsibility or admit any wrongdoing. Because, like you said, John, that does kind of sum them up. I mean, I don't expect that to stop now, even after this. I mean, if the defamation trial is any indication, he's probably just going to respond to this with even more fraud. I'm like, his response to this fraud guilty verdict is just going to be doing a bunch of super fraud, I assume, and hopefully he will eventually get taken down for that too. It's also kind of, it's nice because I feel like people who hate Trump have been saying for a long time, that he was full of it when it comes to his business acumen and how it's overstated. Like, his fans, that was part of their whole thing from the very beginning. Like, he's a great businessman and maybe this country needs to be ran like a business. And detractors were like, but he's really not though. He's sunk casinos. He's lying about how much money he has, and they've been beating that drum for a long time. So it's nice to see like a court, the judicial system, vindicate that stance or sort of, illustrate that for the public. I know that that's not going to matter and they're not going to hear it or buy it, but still I appreciate it.
They're going to pay for it though.
Oh, absolutely.
And he's certainly going to try with those NFTs of him with abs and riding a lion or whatever. They're definitely going to try, but it's a lot of money. Look, with interest and all that, and by the way, he has 30 days to either put up this money or get a bond for the money, and obviously there's interest on those bonds, so this could be $400 million. E. Jean Carroll could be $100 million. $500 million is a lot, even for a guy who pretends to be a billionaire. That's gonna hurt him, and the penalties against some of these other figures are far lower, but $4 million for Don Jr., that's certainly gonna cut into his travel fund. And by that, I mean, it's gonna be harder for him to hit the slopes, I think is how they talk about his hobby. The slopes, the snow, the powder. I think he likes skiing is what I'm gonna say. But anyway, in addition to the money, let's just quickly go over the fact that this does have consequences going forward pending appeal. Obviously, they're gonna appeal this like they appeal everything. Good luck to them. So there are gonna be consequences on their ability to participate in businesses. So we're gonna jump around a little bit, apologies to the control room, but Donald Trump, Alan Weisselberg, Jeffrey McConney, won't be able to serve as the officer or director of any New York corporation or other legal entity in New York for a period of 3 years. So it's not a permanent thing, but it's a few years. Donald Trump and the Trump Organization and its affiliates won't be able to apply for loans from any financial institution chartered by or registered with the New York State Department of Financial Services for a period of 3 years. Which I think based on the last few years means they just won't be able to be rejected for loans for the next 3 years, but they can't even try. And Eric Trump and Don Jr. they're banned from serving as an officer or director of any New York corporation or other legal entity for a period of 2 years. So theoretically, they won't be able to lead up the Trump Organization, but I'm not too worried about them. Obviously, with their expertise and their business experience, they'll be able to be hired on as a CEO of some other company in some other part of the country or the world. I mean, they're international businessmen. They earned their positions. But anyway, of course there will be appeal, and they're going to try, by the way, while the appeal plays out, they're already previewing a motion that would suspend the bar on them serving in these positions, Donald Trump all the way down to his kids, so that they would continue to be able to head up the Trump Organization while that goes forward. Any quick thoughts about the non-monetary components of this?
It doesn't feel like it's long enough. 3 years, like that is plenty of time. He's still gonna somehow be relevant, whether inside of the White House or outside of it, or inside the White House forever. I think that what sucks about this case is that it is compounded with every other criminal case. Like, I just wish he could focus his crimes on one thing or the other, because this truly is the one that he cares the most about. And it's the one, to Trey's point, that his base should care the most about. Like, if they think that he's some wildly successful businessman, no, he did that by lying.
Yeah.
He got the loans to then make his investments by lying. Of course, he would sort of laud it and say, that's what anyone would do. And, that's just called good accounting. No, it's called fraudulent criminal accounting, and you got caught for it.
Yeah.
But the fact that it comes like again with everything else, the election interference and Jan 6 and the classified documents, people can't keep their head on straight about it, even though I think this is the one that the MAGA base should care the most about.
Yeah, because of reputation.
Yeah, and I agree, about it being too short. I was definitely hoping for more on that front. Although, yeah, as you were saying, as you were alluding to, John, the children, Trump Jr. and Eric, they'll be fine, if not for the CEO reasons you named, but because this court did not ban them from doing drugs and shooting endangered species and launching into or just coke-addled diatribes into the digital ether. You know what I mean? Like, they could still do the things they love the most. So, I think they'll find some way to soldier on.
They're probably okay, yeah. Yeah, and look, we have to be fair. Obviously, as you can tell from the last 12 minutes, we're very fair people. We're gonna get Donald Trump's response in just a sec. But before that, I do wanna say, and Francesca alluded to this with wanting him to focus on his crimes. There are a lot of different crimes and a lot of different trials and all of that. Like, the hush money one popped up again this week. I didn't even know that was still a thing, and this is my job. I just follow this every day. But that said, we're not gonna get justice in all of them, okay? That's clearly the case. We already haven't in some areas. But as depressed as I always am about American politics, I mean, you can literally see in my face the damage that all of this is doing to me. I'm very glad about the two that we've gotten justice on so far, because symbolically, they really cut to the heart of some of the things that have always bothered me, and I think a lot of you, the most about Donald Trump. This really summarizes, you've gotten away for decades basically entirely lying about your brand, your abilities, your success, you as a businessman. One of the main pillars of Donald Trump is that he's a good businessman. He's not. He's a fraud and a con man, and he always has been. And now he's been hit with one of the biggest judgments for like a company of that size in American history. So that should cut down that pillar of who he is. And E. Jean Carroll is really the other one. It's his bravado in thinking he can do whatever he wants to women. He can do whatever he wants. He can say whatever he wants about them. He can assault them and then spend decades lying about it and get away with it. Except now he can't. And that cuts down the other leg of who Donald Trump is. He's been hit on the false business bravado and the virulent toxic misogyny. There's just one or two others remaining. If we can get him on January 6th, that's kind of one of the big ones, his lies about democracy. And it kind of feels like there should be something about Barack Obama's birth certificate. That one's still sort of lingering back there. He's probably gonna be fine when it comes to that. But I am very glad about these two. It feels almost like justice. But that said, why don't we move to Donald Trump's response to all of this? It took a while, but after it was announced that he would be paying about $1/3 billion in the New York civil fraud trial, Donald Trump did take to Truth Social to bleat his disapproval of the decision, saying, "The justice system in New York State and America as a whole is under assault. Racist, corrupt AG Tish James," who I will remind you, he refers to as peekaboo. He calls her a racist, and he uses a racist slur against her that he made up as like a loophole for racism. Just a reminder, she's obsessed with getting Trump. He has a tremendous business, blah, blah. There's violent crime in New York, so I guess his white collar crimes shouldn't count. It's one of the most elitist stances you can possibly have, that the rich should be fine so long as the poors are committing crime. How dare you come after the rich? And for some reason, the populist MAGA movement doesn't have a problem with that. But he describes the decision as a complete and total sham. There were no victims, no damages, no complaints, only satisfied capital B banks and insurance companies. Great financial statements. The Trump brand is ironclad with disclaimers and blah, blah, blah. All the other side had was a ridiculous $18 million valuation of Mar-a-Lago. Blah, 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 a whole bunch of other stuff. I'm gonna remind you, they went through, especially with Eric Trump, individual properties and how much they overvalued them. There was one property, I think it was Seven Springs or something like that, and it was independently assessed as being worth $5 million. So Eric Trump said, we're gonna value it at $161 million because we're going to pretend that there are mansions on the property. There weren't. There just weren't, but we're gonna pretend that they are. And then years go by, they keep being told you really need to stop valuing this at that point. And he kept saying, no, we're just gonna keep doing it. So when he complains about Mar-a-Lago, just bear in mind, they were overvaluing things to like the better part of $1 to $2 billion. But he's mad, again, none of this is a defense against what has been alleged. But he's angry, and I'm gonna give you just one more reaction. This is from his legal representative to the media, Alina Habba.
This verdict is a manifest injustice, plain and simple. It is the culmination of a multi-year politically fueled witch hunt that was designed to, quote, take down Donald Trump before Letitia James ever stepped foot into the Attorney General's office. Countless hours of testimony proved that there was no wrongdoing, no crime, and no victim. Given the grave stakes, we trust that the appellate division will overturn this egregious verdict, she writes, and end this relentless persecution against my clients. Let me make one thing perfectly clear. This is not just about Donald Trump, she says. If this decision stands, it will serve as a signal to every single American that New York is no longer open for business.
I mean, the case could be made that this is gonna serve as a signal to people doing business in New York that you can have a little bit more faith in the financial information that is being presented to you. You know, if you're a bank or something, there's gonna be a little bit less chance that rich people are gonna try to lie to you about what things are worth because we're actually going to follow the law. And again, like they're still pretending, like Judge Engron said, they have no ability to show remorse or understanding of their crimes. It's not disputable that they did this. The paper trail for individual properties is there. They kept being told this is what it's worth, and they kept lying over and over and over again. Sorry, Alina, but that's just what happened with your client. Trey, I want to start with you. What do you think?
Yeah, no, like you said, it's nice to see, like you said, the court should restore some faith in you know, operating in this upper echelon of the business realm in New York and proving that you can't just do this, I guess, anymore. Before the verdict came down, realizing how long they had gone about just being this fraudulent and getting away with it for so long, it was part of an ongoing revelation that I had recently when I guess I'm just super naive because, you know, I'm a trailer baby. I don't know about money stuff. But like when I saw all those, remember all those documentaries came out around the same time about like Anna Delvey and Elizabeth Holmes and Tinder Swindler and all those people. I remember watching those when they were out and being like, oh, wow, you can just like lie to rich people and you can then just be a rich person if you lie. Like if you're brazen enough and shameless enough, you could just lie your way into being a rich person, you know, and that's been like Trump's MO forever. So
100%.
again, I'm glad to see, you know, this court try to do something about that. Another very brief note from way earlier, you mentioned that racist loophole he had. I feel like 50+% of these people's brain power is devoted to being able to be racist, but with a modicum of plausible deniability. You know, like that's one of their #1 pursuits. There ain't no whistle like a dog whistle. They find any way they can to be racist in public, but still be able to act like they're not. So
Totally.
just wanted to throw that note in there.
But I will push back and say he didn't start off. Like Anna Delvey ostensibly started off with nothing. Donald Trump, was born with a silver spoon in his mouth, and he still managed to bankrupt whatever his dad gave him. And here's the thing. I love the idea that there's no victim. They keep on saying there's no victim. And let this be a lesson to every white collar criminal out there. Let's keep going when it comes to real estate investors, when it comes to the 1%, basically swindling the rest of us. Because when you overvalue your own, properties, when you drive up the price of your properties, what does that do to wherever you are, wherever your properties are? What does it do to Manhattan? What does it do to New York City, right? Like there is an impact on that. What does it do when the burden of your bankruptcies is thrust upon the state or on the taxpayers, right? Yep. Like it's BS to say that there is no victim here. It's just that white collar criminals never get nabbed. And honestly, to Trump himself, who has said this, like he could have had a very nice life if he just wasn't president. And he really could have. He was a celebrity. The NBC resuscitated his, 80s tired ass from, making The Apprentice. He didn't have to run for president. He could still have $400 million not be facing criminal charges.
Unfortunately, he was as arrogant as he was stupid. Well, we have one more small angle of this story. If you will indulge me, I have been waiting to talk about this. After it was announced that Donald Trump owed, let's say after it was announced that Donald Trump was going to owe close to $400 million in the civil fraud suit, I, like many people, wondered, what is he going to say about this? The meltdown is going to be amazing. And so I loaded up his Truth Social, and it took about 10 minutes, and he posted a message. But it wasn't about the fraud trial. In fact, he didn't post about that for about an hour. Former president hit with hundreds of millions of dollars in fines wasn't on his mind. Do you know what was on his mind? What he posted about in that first crucial hour? He posted this. It says the fake news used artificial intelligence to create the picture on the top left. These are despicable people, but everyone knows that. The other pictures of me hitting capital G golf balls today to show the difference. Sadly, in our country, fake news is all you get. That is an image that he thinks was created by AI to make him look fat. And that is the only thing he posted about for a solid hour after finding out that he was gonna lose basically all of his liquid wealth in the world. This image that he attributes to artificial intelligence. And the thing that's interesting to me about this isn't just that this is what he posted about. This has been on his mind. Here is what he said at a rally earlier this week.
Did you see the picture of me, the horrible picture with the stomach out to here? So what I do is I'm putting up today a picture of me what I actually look like, hitting a ball, smashing the frickin' ball. And you'll see I wouldn't say slim, but not bad. But the ball does go far. I would say it goes about 9 times further than Biden can hit it.
He's really obsessed with that. And here is the thing that makes it even more fascinating. Not that he just posted it after getting this horrific, maybe career-ending legal news. Not that he's bringing it up repeatedly. And it isn't even that he's wrong, because he's not. That is not actually a real image. Now, he is wrong about it being AI generated. It was just his face photoshopped onto a literal other golfer's face. And the reason that I know that is that this is not a new image. This was fact-checked by Snopes in the middle of 2017, long before AI was generating images. This image has been floating around the internet for 7 years, And all of a sudden this week, it's all he can think about. He's facing 91 indictments and a number of different civil lawsuits as well. But his mind is on, how dare they pretend that I'm fat while playing golf? Francesca, what do you think?
I just, that rally speech makes me miss not President Trump. Like, he's actually quite funny if you strip away, the Nazi stuff and the storm the Capitol and the, everything else. He's actually like kind of entertaining. And remember, like, I actually can enjoy him now that he's not in office. Of course, he's running though. But I love that he decides to, like, fool, we all saw you at the omelet bar in Mar-a-Lago, bro. Like, we saw your hungry little beady eyes. Like, no shame in an omelet bar, but I love he's like, homie, we know you wear heels so that you're constantly forward, so that your tummy tucks just so you can't actually see it. Bro, really?
Yeah, I mean, look, there's no denying that he's funny. It's just funny, and he's also terrifying. Like, he's funny sort of the way Kenny Powers was funny in Eastbound and Down, right? But it's like Kenny Powers was fake. Like, if Kenny Powers was in your life, that would be really hard to deal with, let alone running the country, right? And that's like, because he's just so brash and insane and says the most ridiculous things. And like, yeah, look, I was a fat kid growing up. I wish I could have the type of like confidence in how I look as he clearly has. You know what I mean? Like, I wish I could trade my brand of body dysmorphia for his, or at least take it for a test drive, because it's pretty powerful stuff he's got. But yeah, the end, I could not help but laugh at the end of that when he starts to just smash in that golf ball 9 times at least what Biden can do. And it's like, I do laugh at it, but that's one of the, he cannot be allowed to win again, because if he does, he's going to, dismantle democracy and install himself as a dictator probably. And I'm saying, we're going to have to put up with that type of Kim Jong-un type of rhetoric about the dear leader hitting 18 holes in one round of golf, you know what I mean, and breaking the land speed barrier in a car he built in his garage or whatever. Like,
but Trey, don't you think that he planted the idea that Biden and he should just have a golf off, and whoever wins wins?
Sure, I'm sure he'd love that. Yeah,
because we know John, we've talked about how he cheats at golf consistently, right?
Yeah, it's well established. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So anyway, look, obviously a stupid element of this. I will close by being a Buzz Killington. Don't Photoshop Donald Trump to look heavier. First of all, I know that he's your enemy and he's an objectively bad guy, but being heavy does not, like, it doesn't make you a villain. It doesn't make you a bad person. So don't exaggerate his body. It's just a weird thing to do. That said, I will also say Donald Trump, like, he cannot see on True Social an image that, like, a Facebook mom has AI generated of him with an Apache helicopter in the background and a lion marching next to him and 6-pack abs that he doesn't retweet. So he's got, like, he likes the AI images as long as they make him look good. So a little bit of glass houses there. In any event, we have to take our first break of the hour. Lots of news to get to after this.
I did everything right and they indicted me.
Welcome back, one and all. In a moment, we're gonna get to your comments, but I hear that Francesca's got something going on. What's up?
Oh, I just wanted to plug a show. Shameless plug. I'm gonna be in Sacramento, California on Sunday, March 17th at 7 p.m. with Matt Lieb, husband, fellow comedian. And so come out, TYT Army, let's go, okay? Come on, Dragon Squad, I wanna see you. That's St. Patty's Day, and I hope it's fun if you're in the Sac area.
Should be fun. I would word that differently, but that does sound fun if you're in the Sac area. Anyway.
Only you.
I don't think it was only me.
Brain.
Normally it would be you. Anyway, let's jump to some comments. Cyborg Elf Gaming says, these are probably my 3 favorite people that I ever see on TYT. So nice of you, thank you. Very nice. Level 18 white girl says, but Trump is supposedly a billionaire. Isn't that just a drop in the bucket? Well, as a percentage of his brand, sure. As a percentage of his supposedly liquid wealth, it's quite a bit actually. Yeah. Wild Devil Dragon says, Francesca and Trey, what a great show. And I agree. I'm also here. Anyway, Pones247 has been with us for 20 months on YouTube and says, oh, this is Twitch. Says, always glad to see my favorite progressive rednecks. A little shout out there for Trey. Nice. Okay, Bradshaw Crew, I see your message, but I will not burden the rest of the panel with it. Thank you. Brew Bros, been here for 19 months, says, I hope someday to see the look of fear on Trump's face. You keep it up, TYT. January 6th trial, that's the big one. That's the one that I'm waiting for. We will see what happens. Hard to believe there will be justice, but anyway, Art Guy over the members' comments. Hey, Art Guy says, Trey, Franny, and also what's left of John. Thank you. We're here and we're happy. Let's see, Gabby says, now this is a power panel. Johnny Ty, Trey Crowder, Francesca Fiorentini. I would watch this trio discuss literally anything from Star Trek to politics to debating what the best sandwich is. What's the best sandwich panel?
Italians.
I don't know if I have a best
sandwich. Take a stand for once in your life, Francesca, okay?
I think it's gonna be a turkey with everything on a sourdough roll.
I had a feeling you were gonna say turkey.
I'm gonna overlap with you because the correct answer is a Thanksgiving leftovers sandwich.
Ooh.
But anyway.
I like pushing the boat out. I like it.
There are 52 new members. Emmy Ruth, Sarah Moss, Jesus, ND Run, Michael D, Daniel P, Lisa Dorgan, Ray Ani, B Mara, Mr. Torleach, No Wenley, John Baptiste, Abolish the State, Gregory Williamson, Leon, Dimitri, Mookska, Richard, Eileen, Sumner, Alaska Barb, Doug's Place, Jose, James, Matt, Erica, Kevin, Artistic, Elijah, Anthony Delgado, Jason Snyder, Aaron Ward, Stephen Wirtz, Sheldon, Emilio, Brandon, Donald, Robert, Richard, Jimmy, Stephanie, Anthony, Connie, Joey, George. Thank you for joining up.
If you don't like your kids that much, or if you don't like them at all, which happens on occasion, don't worry about it.
Welcome back to the show, one and all. If you're just joining us now, please hit the like button and welcome to all the new members. I actually did not in the social break get to all of the new members. I will attempt to in the next break, but thank you and welcome aboard as we launch into incredibly serious news, starting with this.
According to the official account, this morning, Alexei Navalny was taking a walk that he immediately began to feel unwell, quickly lost consciousness, that prison medical staff reacted, but that they were unable to revive him and that he died. One of Navalny's top aides said, this is, if it is true, and we don't know if it's true, and his lawyer is on his way to the penal colony now, that it is not a case of Navalny died, but Putin killed Navalny.
And so, as you can see, one of the most persistent and powerful, brave critics of Vladimir Putin and his regime has passed. Alexei Navalny died while incarcerated in a Russian prison. He was 47 years old and had served for a number of years as one of the figureheads and most outspoken leaders of the opposition movement against Vladimir Putin. If you're not familiar with him, his struggle with Putin became significantly more difficult following the 2020 alleged poisoning that he experienced while on an airplane, a Soviet-era neurotoxin popular with the security service of Russia apparently used against him. He suffered as a result of that for some time, survived the poisoning, but was arrested in 2021 on alleged charges including extremism, embezzlement, and fraud. He was facing a 19-year sentence in a maximum security prison, and he and his team for some time have been trying to publicize how absolutely horrendous the conditions are inside of those maximum security prisons. And as you saw in that video, apparently he had been taking a walk and felt unwell. And yesterday on video, he actually looked and sounded perfectly healthy. And so this came as a shock to the world. Not a shock that doesn't have any potential explanations considering his history and who his enemy is. But we want to give you a bit of a response from his wife, now widow, who spoke at the Munich Security Conference shortly after news of Alexei Navalny's death broke.
If it is true, I want Putin and all his allies, all his friends, his government, I want them all to know that they would be held responsible for what they have done with our country, with my family, with my husband. They will be held responsible for that, and that day would come very soon.
The widow being very clear there about where she thinks responsibility lies. And over the last few hours, both the president and vice president have also been clear about who they think is to blame.
We've all just received reports that Alexei Navalny has died in Russia. And if confirmed, this would be a further sign of Putin's brutality. Whatever story they tell, let us be clear. Russia is responsible.
Reports of his death, if they're true, and I have no reason to believe they're not, Russian authorities are going to tell their own story. But make no mistake, Putin is responsible for Navalny's death. Putin is responsible. What has happened to Navalny is yet more proof of Putin's brutality.
Francesca, what do you think?
I mean, I think it felt like the writing had been on the wall for Alexei Navalny. Obviously, he was in the crosshairs. That's what happens when you try to make a dictatorship a democracy. That's what happens when you do the simple thing of running against a dictator like Vladimir Putin. My heart goes out, obviously, to the Russian people who believe that they could have a better country than they currently do, one that consistently lies to them, gaslights them, and refuses to acknowledge any kind of opposition parties. I mean, the guy was a tank, man. The guy had survived the Novichok poisoning. He was at a penal colony in the Arctic Circle. I'm like, I have no idea. Like, I can't even wrap my brain around half of that. And the fact that he was well yesterday and then suddenly felt ill. I mean, we've seen this playbook before from Putin. I think it's really important for us to distinguish one thing, which is American response and ratcheting and sort of belligerence towards Russia with the real crime that this is. Meaning, I don't believe that our posturing against Russia helps anyone, let alone the Russian opposition. But I definitely think it is a chilling look into a future, and I know we'll talk about the Republicans in this country actually want for our nation, which is this kind of crackdown and open assassination of dissidents.
Trey?
Yeah, I mean, that's where I was, gonna go with it too. I mean, it makes me, that's exactly where my brain goes. First of all, I mean, the bravery of this guy to be doing this in Russia, because all three of us, we rail against the authoritarian elements in this, as we perceive it, hellscape, right, all the time. But like we can do that still, for now we can do that. Like
right.
The things I've said about these people, the pointed and frankly hilarious insults I've lobbed at them over the years, from the sanctity of my Jeep and my driveway, and not face any real repercussions for it. And look, sometimes like I got a buddy that runs this great progressive blog called the Tennessee Holler, back in Tennessee, fighting the good fight. My friend runs that, and he was all over the Tennessee 3 story when it was happening in the middle of the night one night, and he posted about this. It's public knowledge now. Somebody like drove by and shot his house up at like 3 a.m. So sometimes things like that happen, and I find myself, questioning doing this here even now, right? So I'm just saying, I really give it up to this guy, to Alexei Navalny, for sticking with it in a country like Russia. And I mean, he paid the price, but like he walked the walk for sure, and I got all the respect in the world for that. But yes, as Francesca said, I'm terribly worried that if we don't watch it, if we, we don't stay as vigilant as possible, we could end up in a similar position, because that's certainly how, the right in this country would like to see it go. So
yeah, it's he went back to Russia after he could have left, and it just it seems weird that you can have in the world people like him who he didn't just like hypothetically was willing to die. He died. He gave up decades of his life for the minute chance that it would help his countrymen. And then you have people like, you remember it was resurfaced like a week or two ago, Ben Shapiro mocking the protester who died trying to protect Palestinians, was crushed under a bulldozer, and he mocked her as being stupid. Like, we have people like that for whom politics is as real as anything can be, who literally give up their lives for it. And then we have people who this is all just a game. They mock protesters like that, Donald Trump mocking our soldiers, saying they're losers and suckers for giving up their life. Like, all of this is a game. The rhetoric and the culture wars that they go on, they're already rich and powerful. They're already wealthy. They have all the money that they could ever spend in their life. And it's all just fun and games. And then you have people struggling and dying to improve the lives of other people, people they don't even know. It's weird that one species can contain those multitudes. But as perhaps a demonstration of a little bit of that, obviously the news is broken that Alexei Navalny, the opposition figure in Russia, has passed. Now at the same time, Tucker Carlson, American journalist, is traveling around Russia trying to laud their bread supply or something. And interestingly, this subject kind of came up just a few days ago. Here he is in a recent interview.
You should challenge in the rules of an interview, and you're a master in your business. It's not for me to give you a lecture about that, but you should challenge some ideas. For instance, you didn't talk about freedom of speech in Russia. You did not talk about Navalny, about assassinations, about the restrictions on opposition in the coming elections.
I didn't talk about the things that every other American media outlet talks about.
Why?
Exclusively.
Yes, this
because
is my
those
question.
are covered, and because I have spent my life talking to people who run countries in various countries and have concluded the following: that every leader kills people, including my leader. Every leader kills people. Some kill more than others. Leadership requires killing people, sorry. That's why I wouldn't want to be a leader.
Yeah, he was asked a tough question, as I just mentioned to Edwin, a tougher question than he asked Putin when he had the opportunity and decided not to. He was too focused, I guess, on doing propaganda for an authoritarian government. Now, he is attempting to change his tune a little bit now that Navalny has died just days after he said that. He said, it's horrifying what happened in Navalny. The whole thing is barbaric and awful. No decent person would defend it. But that is kind of the thing. He's not defending it. He's trying to tell you, don't even think about it. Everybody kills, all leaders assassinate. Don't even think about it. You know, if it's over there in Russia, it's not a big deal. Hey, if it comes here to America, it's not a thing that you should think about because leaders kill people, it's perfectly fine. Just look at the architecture, look at the price of the bread, focus on that. Look at the flowers, okay? Don't think about the authoritarianism, it's creeping up behind you. And before we comment, I just want to go to Donald Trump, who has not yet spoken about this. Former president of the United States has nothing to say about an opposition figure being assassinated. Okay, but he has been asked in the past about Navalny, and here's what he had to say about it.
He also is a person that kills journalists, political opponents, and invades countries. And invades countries. Obviously, that it would be a concern, would it not?
He's running his country, and at least he's a leader. You know, unlike what we have in this country.
Who do you think poisoned Alexei Navalny in Russia?
We'll talk about that at another time.
Yeah, spoiler alert, they didn't. He didn't talk about it another time because honestly, he cares as little as Tucker Carlson does. It doesn't matter. He's leading his country in the same way that I want to lead this country. If somebody's inconvenient to me, you just kill him, man, because leaders kill people. That's just what it does. That's what I've learned as I've traveled. Francesca, what do you think?
I mean, I just want to say that Tucker Carlson knows that he is not a decent person. That's why he says that. He absolutely knows. That dude has no more mirrors left in his home. He knows he is an abject POS who carries water for authoritarians like Vladimir Putin. And we've done matchups of his monologues and Putin's talking points, specifically when it comes to the war on Ukraine, a war that Russia started, and it is verbatim Kremlin talking points. And that's just not, that's not scaremongering. That's, no one's Russia-gating here. It's literally just what it's like. I don't know, does he get a fax every morning? Like, how does it come to him? Does it a little text message? I just wanna say, this is a few days after Vladimir Putin clowns on him in this interview multiple times. Tucker's completely out of his depth. Don't think that these things are unrelated. Do you know what I'm saying? And I know maybe, oh, for Jessica, that's crazy. No, I do think Putin is a petty little man and he's a petty murderer. And he absolutely knows that Tucker Carlson is going around talking about the bread prices, talking about whatever, how great Russia is. And just like he clowned on him in the interview, just like he did that, oh, you want to be part of the CIA, so glad you didn't, oh, they didn't accept you. Don't think that the murder of his main political opponent is not well timed with a prominent American talking head doing his bidding and laundering his crap for him in his own country. And oh, now Tucker says, oh, it's indefensible. BS, we know what you said 2 days ago, which is everybody kills.
Yep. Trey, final thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, the response to what Tucker said about and then Trump and all that, it kind of reminds me of what I was saying earlier about like they want to be racist, but with plausible deniability. I think it's a similar thing with this type of like overtly fascist, stuff when it comes up. Like they still have maintained enough of a modicum of shame or recognize enough of some kind of semblance of sanity left in the American public that they are not willing to just blatantly outright say that this is the type of future they want for this country, or that they want to be able to jail dissidents or, anyone on the other side in America, or worse, throw them out windows, any of that type of thing. They do want that. They just are not quite ready yet to just openly say it. And so at least there's that. I'm very worried that we will get there. Something will happen. Trump will come out and say, and then get lauded for it, and people will hold him up even further on their shoulders, and then it's like all bets are off after that. But for now, they still have to pretend to care about things like democracy and freedom of speech. They call themselves free speech warriors, but they'd love to throw us all in a gulag if they could. So,
stay tuned in November. We'll see if we'll take another step in that direction. For now, though, we do have to take the second break of our hour. Stick around, more to come after this.
I'm a very stable genius.
Okay, everybody, including all of the new members, I welcome some of you. There are more. And welcome Mike, Philip, Tranoops, Eugene, Sven, Jim, Peggy, Diana, Josephine, D Alpha, Paul, Joho Ho, David, Esteban, Terry, and Adam. Welcome, members. Love to have you here. Let's see, Benjamin Morrill gifted a membership. Benjamin Morrill's always gifting them memberships. Thank you, Benjamin. Michi has been a member for 16 months and says some of my favorite people in the first hour. Yay, thank you so much, very nice of you. Let's see, some super chats. R. Stone sent in a super chat saying, just think he would have gotten away with all of this if he hadn't won the presidency by mistake. Also, can't he just get a cut of Jared's $2 billion Saudi deal to pay the lawsuits? It was one of the many ways he sold out the country. Yeah, he's probably gonna go begging for that. Oh, by the way, link up to our last story. Remember, Kushner was interviewed this week about doing business with Mohammed bin Salman after butchering a journalist, and he's like, are we really gonna talk about this again? Yeah, I'm working with a butcher, but I want the money. These people are absolute monsters. Anyway, Camillo sent a super chat saying, this week in America, Trump and Biden debate over 18 holes of golf. Most watched event in American history, guaranteed. I don't want to see them do a golf off. I want the push-up contest. I want the first one of them to hit 50 push-ups gets the presidency. And if neither of them does, it goes to someone else, honestly. I think AOC's probably got some upper body strength. Anyway, Flip Mode says,
I don't think either of them makes it through that. I don't think either of them makes it through 15.
I agree, 15. I don't think Trump can do 5.
No.
You know,
but I would like to see him
Biden,
try.
I think, could maybe get 10.
Can you
10,
imagine
15.
if he were to try to do push-ups, that might get through to his base because they worship masculine strength and energy, and it would be an embarrassing display. I want to see him do 3 bodyweight squats. That's what I want to see.
Yeah.
If he can do 3, I'll vote for him in November. How about that?
And then a trans man Olympian is next to them, just like going.
Just
go,
military
go,
presses
go,
Trump.
Go. That's what I want.
Anyway. Okay, let's see. Matt Gates on a white Ford Bronco says in a super chat, fact, at birth, baby elephants can weigh up to 225 pounds, making them the biggest babies on earth next to Trump dealing with this verdict. Ba-dum-dum. That's pretty good. Has Matt Gates on a white Ford, we're not doing boyfriend gift cards on this anymore. Send that same comment on TDR and I'll try to help you. But anyway, more news to come, everyone. We're gonna have some fun coming up after this. Welcome back, one and all, to what remains of the TYT Power Panel. I'm John Irola, Francesca's still here, Trey as well. Thank you guys for being here. We got some more fun stories to talk about. So let's jump into this. Fulton County DA Fani Willis did not take the stand again earlier today because reports from her team imply that they think that her testimony yesterday provided enough defense that efforts to disqualify her in the investigation into Donald Trump and what happened after the 2020 election in Georgia will not actually go forward, which is interesting. There's been a lot of critical analysis of her testimony, but they seem confident. But that doesn't mean that they did not have anyone testify to try to provide additional bits of evidence, including in 2 different areas. And we're gonna start first with questions that remain about her having reimbursed the special counsel Wade, who she had a relationship with, in cash rather than in something that provides a paper trail. Here is her father, John Floyd, explaining why exactly it is that that makes sense.
When your daughter moved or left the house that she owned, did she say anything to you about having a large savings of cash?
Oh no, see, maybe, excuse me, and Your Honor, I'm not trying to be racist, okay? But it's a black thing, okay? You know, I was trained, and most black folks, they hide cash or they keep cash. And I trained, you always keep some cash. I've always kept cash, and I've told my daughter, you keep 6 months worth of cash, always.
Now, she does not keep 6 months of cash. She made very clear in yesterday's testimony that she does not do that, but that she always makes sure that she has some money. So while I think for a lot of people it might seem a bit odd, in his longer testimony, and he testified for some time, I at least, look, maybe I'm in a bubble, maybe I'm biased, I found it to be a pretty compelling argument as to why it is that she might operate financially differently than other people. And there's another area, perhaps more important, that we will get into. And I do want to mention that he also says that Willis let him know about her relationship with Wade in 2023, which lines up with her explanation of how the timeline worked rather than those attacking her. So her father, perhaps not surprisingly, testified in her defense, and I think in some areas was pretty compelling. But Trey, I'm gonna go to you. What did you think?
Well, first of all, it's kind of funny to me because when I first heard the cash thing, my immediate response was like, oh, that's like That's like a redneck. I know so many rednecks who did it. I had Papa, they didn't trust banks, you know what I mean? Bury cash in the backyard or whatever, like that type of thing. It's like, I didn't know, but honestly, it's wild. There's a lot of overlapping things like that between the two cultures more than either side would like to admit, but that's just a side note. Anyway, my thing with this whole case is like, I feel like the stakes are too high. It's too important of a thing. It's going to be that most scrutinized moment of your entire career and probably most scrutinized you'll ever have, I think, if you're in this position. And I just feel like you have to be aware of how things are going to look. Like that things are probably going to come out and how those things are going to look and how they're going to be construed. You know, as I've understood it, maybe I'm wrong, but Wade is not generally seen as being qualified for the position he has anyway. And then the amounts of money involved and then the personal relationship. And I'm not saying that there isn't an explanation for all of it. I find the whole thing pretty unfortunate, frankly, given the context of this case. And I just feel like things are too important here to you know, not pay more attention to, you know, how things would be perceived at the very least, even if all that is true.
Francesca?
Yeah, but counterpoint, like, you can't deny love, you know what I'm saying? So like, I just want to throw that in there. No, I totally agree. I'm very torn about this whole story because it is a massive distraction from what actually happened. And Fani Willis on the stand did an incredible job at defending herself and like what the stakes actually are when you're talking about 19 people involved in a massive conspiracy to defraud the people of Georgia. Like, that's huge, and the country. When I see her father on the stand, I'm like, how the hell was her dad there? You know, this has gone way too far, but he made a really like kind of interesting point. And I think, you know, to Trey's point about a redneck thing, yeah, it's a working people's thing, right? I mean, it's people who are routinely denied bank accounts or loans, or folks who don't have access to credit cards or have debt or whatnot. You know, it's like, you know, you keep cash on you in these emergency cases because you have to have a million things just to, you know, get a basic account or credit card. So yeah, so I mean, again, I'm not a huge defense, but I think it does make sense. It is, yeah, it's just a total diversion from the actual issue.
Yeah, and that is infuriating. The fact that, not that you, like, if she did something corrupt, then investigate her, take her off the case, or hell, if it was a crime, actually investigate her. But how could that possibly cause the larger crime to not be investigated? But that is clearly the strategy here, the legal strategy of Donald Trump and his co-conspirators. He's being very clear about that in his social media posts about it. He wants this to cancel out what he did. But that said, there was one other witness that we wanted to focus on. That is former Georgia Governor Roy Barnes, who testified earlier today. And this wasn't about the cash thing. This was about the claim that she had already been in a relationship with Wade, and then because there would be financial benefits, she went to him to take the position rather than someone who might be better qualified or that she was not involved in a relationship with. That's sort of an important part of why they believe that she needs to be taken off this case. Well, one of the pieces of evidence here is that Roy Barnes is going to testify to is that actually that's not the case. She went to him to fill the role before Wade. Now, he declined to take it because he was worried about it being a high-profile case. He's already had experiences with violent threats, and there will almost certainly be those if you're involved in this case, considering that it's Donald Trump. So take a look at a bit of his testimony.
She asked me, said they were beginning this investigation, and she asked me if I'd be interested in being special prosecutor, to which I replied that I had mouths to feed at a law office and that I would not do that. And also, I just had a bad, well, I won't say bad because it happens from time to time, but I just had the FBI to report a fella, a militia trainer, to me that said they were concerned that he was making threats against me, and because I thought it was because of the flag, but I asked him and he said no, it was because I was too close to the Jews, quote unquote. And I told D.A. Willis I'd lived with bodyguards for 4 years, and I didn't like it, and I wasn't going to live with bodyguards for the rest of my life.
So it kind of feels like that whole situation existing should be a bigger part of the conversation, that's the sort of violent anti-Semitic threats against prosecutors, which is definitely a big thing. By the way, there was a report earlier this week that threats against judges and prosecutors have more than doubled in the past couple of years. I have no explanation as to why that might be. I haven't seen any high-profile people conspiracy theorizing around judges and prosecutors, but anyway, that is his argument as to why he didn't take it, but it was offered to him, he says. So it does not appear to be the case that she thought, well, I'm just gonna give it to my boyfriend, or at the very least, it wasn't her first choice, which theoretically could be seen as a jury as arguing against what the prosecution is trying to make them believe. Trey, I'm gonna go to you for a quick comment about that.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like Francesca. It's just it just sucks that we're talking about all of this at all. Then the greater case at hand here, and like you said, none of this has any bearing on what happened there, on what Trump and all his co-conspirators did, and the implications of that for the entire country and everything. So it's just a shame that this, and then you think sometimes like, well, maybe it would be simpler because it's such a diversion. Maybe she should just be taken off of it and a different prosecutor put on this case because it is so important. But would it really be surprising if, a new prosecutor in the state of Georgia specifically, ended up somehow burying it or just not, changing the parameters of it or just kind of ruining this case? So, and, you just don't know. The whole thing is just a shame. I don't know what else to say.
I think it's also really fascinating, though, that given the threats that prosecutor was facing and that he said that he didn't want to take on another case, and the fact that it wasn't well paid, and then you see the people who have taken this on. I mean, granted, like AG Letitia James and then, Fani Willis are obviously paid by the state. But look, these are thankless jobs that put you in the crosshairs of the MAGA movement, and they happen to be occupied by Black women. And so that shouldn't be lost on anyone, and it's certainly not lost on Trump. And definitely thank you for your service. However, stop prosecuting the protesters who want to stop Cop City in Atlanta. Thank you. Bye.
Yeah, exactly. That is an interesting thing that's in common with these different AGs. The other thing is, and I learned this from Donald Trump, is that weirdly, coincidentally, they're all racist against him. It's weird how that worked out. All of those Black women are racist against him. He'll provide evidence at some point, I'm sure. He hasn't yet, but I trust him. I think that this guy's got something. Anyway, look, we don't know exactly what the timeline is going to be for the rest of this testimony, whether it will result in her being taken off of the case or Wade being taken off the case, and what that might mean for the case going forward. But it remains a possibility, a ridiculous possibility, that he could just get a state level coup free because they went to Napa Valley. So great system we've got set up here. But anyway, I don't know how much more time we have, but I want to lighten things up just a little bit, talk a little bit about technology, about the future, starting with this. That video was amazing, and I don't mean like that it was beautiful or whatever, even though it was. It looks like a lovely little walk around an area. It's amazing because it's entirely artificial. That did not actually happen. It wasn't even made via CGI with like a team working to create that scene. That was just an AI generated video. A few lines of text produced all of that. And we've got a lot more, and they're wild. They're all incredibly impressive and span diverse subjects. We're gonna show you those. But first, you just have to acknowledge that the system is shockingly capable, and it is made by the same company that has produced ChatGPT, that has obviously produced a lot of conversation about AI. This new system they call Sora, after the Japanese word for sky. The team chose it because it evokes, quote, the idea of limitless creative potential. What also evokes the idea of limitless creative potential is creatives being able to be employed to use their talents, but probably not for long, because systems like this are becoming capable at a rate that I don't think anyone expected. Now, obviously they produced this system after training it. You can see another one of the entirely artificially generated images next to us. That was literally just a couple sentences. It was actually me. A couple sentences produced that, and you'll see more. They are declining to say how many videos the system learned from or where they came from, although they did say that the training included both publicly available videos and videos that were licensed from copyright holders. So they are implying that they have not violated any copyrights in the creation of it, which many generative AI systems did initially to produce their text-based ones. And that system is not publicly available right now. There's a group of testers that are trying to test it for weaknesses and exploits, and obviously there are a lot of concerns about what could be done with a system like that. Maybe you'll come up with more as we show more of that video. But Francesca, I want to start with you. What do you think about what AI can accomplish already?
Meh. I mean, I don't know. I give that a C+ on the whole CG scale. Like that wasn't. I didn't really do it for me. Here's the real thing about so-called innovation. All of it is rolled out to ostensibly make our lives easier, and apparently it requires less work, and it's a greener technology. BS, BS, BS. It's always been BS when it comes to what Silicon Valley has wrought on workers of this country, and now we're talking about CG graphics artists, right? Graphics artists who, oh, lo and behold, are unionizing as we speak, have formed unions, whether it's working at Marvel or other entities, right? And all of this is generated on the backs of the work that they've already done, number one. So it's already generated on human work. And then number two, there are no protections for those workers to ensure that their work is protected and that their companies will continue to hire them rather than sort of compete with an open AI new software, this Soros software. Like that's wild to me. And then finally, all of it is wildly water intensive. So in order to cool down the data processing centers that create AI images and videos like the ones you see, it requires fresh water. That's right. So all of this, it's like crypto. Oh, mining crypto, it's super green. No, it's not, because all that stuff has to be cooled, all the data has to be cooled down on something that like a very talented graphics artist could have done if you paid them right. It is a war on working people, even if you think it looks cool.
Okay, so you kind of like it, kind of don't. Okay, Trey, what about you?
I mean, Francesca said meh. So I saw all this last night, all these clips, and I saw it on a Reddit thing. I was reading the comments on it and watching the videos, and I don't know, maybe my gummy was just kicking in the wrong way at the wrong time or something, but it really freaked me out. And it was the first time that had happened with me and AI. The last time the three of us were on the Power Panel together, we talked about that George Carlin AI comedy special.
Yeah.
And me and Francesca were both at that kind of like, but it wasn't actually funny. I still don't think they can't achieve the same. You got to be in the room with the comic. It's a shared experience. I don't know if it's ever going to be able to replicate that. I was kind of downplaying it. And obviously these videos aren't specific to like comedy, but just reading some of the people, like prognosticating where this type of thing could go in the future. And it's like, you feed an AI a book series, the text of a book series, like the Game of Thrones series or something, and it just produces a whole new different.
A better ending?
Better ending, yeah, exactly, right. Whatever it's like. And they're saying they're nowhere close to that right now. But what we've just been watching a couple years ago, people were like, oh, that's way far away, right? And now it's here. So like, I don't know. Yeah. It is kind of freaking me out. Also, I will say, as somebody who has tried and failed numerous times to get a sitcom on the air, has had many failed pilots, the idea of being able to write a script and then have something actually come from that, even if it's computer generated, like selfishly plays for me. But at the same time, that's the wider implications are bad, because it's just going to crush the entire entertainment industry. I saw people speculating that it might be more like social media in the future, kind of like anybody can sort of generate their own TV series or movie from whatever they put into it. And then you get popular and get followers based on that, and that's how it works. But what's the, how does any of that work in terms of an industry or career or any of that? So I don't know. It freaked me out, y'all. I'm freaked out about it now. So that's where I'm at.
I share the freaked out. I think you're totally right. Yeah, it's going to create new, like people are going to use this in a creative fashion. But a lot of people will lose their jobs, and a lot of people's prior work is the only reason that this can exist in the first place. You're totally right about that. I have some other concerns. We'll get to that in just a sec. But first, Trey, you mentioned how far it's come in just a short period of time, and I want to demonstrate to that to people. Can you, for a second, can you just give me a few seconds of the dogs in the snow? just for context, that this is what Sora can make now, these dogs in snow. I mean, that is that's wild and also among the most adorable things I've ever seen in my life. Okay, so that's what Sora can make now. I'm gonna show you a video that was posted last year that represents about the best that AI could do in taking a few lines of text and producing a video. I'm not joking, this is about the best they could do less than 1 year ago. Wow, I didn't realize the sound was still gonna be in that. That is, if you couldn't guess, The Rock eating rocks. And that is the best it could do. And now it's like photorealistic golden retrievers playing in the snow. And those videos are so good that like, it's hard to notice the flaws in a lot of these, even if you know it's AI. If you're like, if your dad didn't know that was AI, there's no way he would suspect that it was. And right now, they're making golden retrievers. But what could they make Ilhan Omar say? You know?
Yeah.
What could they make AOC say? What could they do with a video of Barack Obama? Like, we should be concerned about this being used not by OpenAI, they're gonna have protections or whatever for like revenge porn, but also disinformation. There are a lot of reasons to be worried about this. And this is less than 1 year progress from the rock eating rocks to the videos you saw. Where is it gonna be in a couple of years?
I mean, the Biden campaign is like, oh, please, 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 please. I hope it's there because we need artificial intelligence. Joe Biden, let's go, baby.
A video of him with his face in the snow.
A video, yeah, exactly. No, but seriously, they can't wait because they will absolutely deploy AI Joe because that will be way better than whatever they have right now. Once again, the CPUs are like massively consumptive. Just to do what? Have puppies in snow? Get a puppy. Go put a puppy in snow right now.
I will. Trey.
Yeah, no, I mean all that type, the revenge porn, disinformation, all that. You say what you want about the implications for the entertainment industry, and obviously I feel strongly that should be regulated too. But those aspects of it, like, they need to be working on that in DC, like right now. You know what I mean? Like that needs to be codified, and outlined in legislation, like sooner than later, because of how fast this is moving. But yeah, I had been sort of shrugging it off mostly up until like literally last night when and now it's like it's been a paradigm shift for me personally. I'm not
the wolves are at the gate.
Yeah, they are. I mean, it's pretty wild.
Barbarians. I forgot who's at the gate. Someone's at the gate.
I think it's both barbarians with wolves. Yeah, but I think that my only hope, and I said this last time about that, is that when it gets there and Netflix or ever starts putting out fully AI produced series and stuff, which we all know that they will. My only hope is that when that happens, there's some kind of at least uncanny valley effect to it where it's just not the same for people. Do you know what I mean? Like it's just not as good. It can replicate it, but it will never be quite the same. And people will be able to discern that even if subconsciously, and therefore they'll want, or if failing that, maybe we'll all be like the equivalent of vinyl records in a few years, and hipsters will still like us, and that'll be enough to.
I love how low your bar is. I love how low. I'm like, let's get a universal basic income before displace us. You're like, just something so we can know.
Yeah.
So when we're flooded in climate change, icy waters, we'll know that we're the real people and they're fake.
Hope so. I'm very concerned. You can put a watermark on it, but I agree. Like I hope that there's still some place for like artisanal, locally sourced, free range human creativity. So hopefully Gen Z and Gen Alpha will like that stuff, because otherwise there's an iceberg ahead. I don't think most people see it. Okay, that is unfortunately all the time we have for the first hour of the show, a supersized first hour. But Francesca, I hear you're traveling to the SAC area. Tell us about it.
Thank you. The Sacramento area in California. Come to the Punchline on March 17th at 7 p.m. at Sacramento. Punchline, I already said that. I'll be there. My husband, Matt Lieb, who is a comedian, will also be doing stand-up there. It'll be super fun. I hope to see you there.
Nice. And Trey?
Yeah, I'm on tour. I got a bunch of my next ones are in Indianapolis, and I'll be in DC, Virginia, and Pittsburgh, and a bunch of other places coming up. So just go to TreyCrowder.com, TRAECrowder.com, and come see me.
And come Monday, I'll be on the Damage Report. For the next 2 days, I'm not doing anything, so don't try to reach me. But for now, we'll see you in a bit. Welcome to the Damage Report. I'm John Idarola. This is gonna be a big one.
Meanwhile, in the Arctic, you know where this is going. You watch the Damage Report, the Arctic's on fire. Obviously, why would we be talking about the Arctic except to tell you that it's melting once again? The Republicans aren't that interested in it. I wonder why. Lift out of poverty up to 3.7 million people, including an estimated 1.3 million children. Hashtag save the children? Not if it costs money. I mean, come on.
At TYT, our mission is to boldly pursue truth, challenge the establishment, and drive positive change. At a time when corporate capture of our media, our government, and our politics is nearly absolute, everyday working people need a champion to fight for them and to push back against the powerful interests that threaten our democracy itself. At TYT, we're proudly progressive and call out corruption and duplicity wherever we see it, from Republicans, Democrats, or anyone else. And unlike mainstream news media outlets, we're not beholden to corporate advertisers, to defense contractors, to Wall Street, or to big pharma. We only have to answer to our audience, and for nearly 2 decades, we've accomplished that by delivering honest, timely, and insightful perspectives on the day's news without fear or favor or concern for whose toes we might step on or which powerful elites we might offend. And while we're super serious about the news, we also manage to do it in a way that is fun and lighthearted. We can do this together and serve our audience, and yes, have fun doing it.
Indisputable is still the fastest growing news show in America compared to CNN, Fox News, and 30 other networks. We tell the truth on Indisputable because the truth is indisputable. We go places that other news media outlets refuse to go. When there were human rights abuses happening at the Victorville prison, guards and members of the community contacted us.
You, through your investigative reporting, unearthed very troubling allegations about specific forms of abuse and discrimination in the federal prison system.
It really doesn't take much to be a trusted voice. All it takes is to be fearless, report on matters, be an advocate. I called it the bullpen intentionally because it's a place of preparation. We present individuals who may have an opposing view, so we debate. Sometimes we interview individuals because their stories deserve to be heard. A survivor of significant police misconduct and his attorney. We covered this story earlier and to remind you of the horror of one man being shot at damn near 100 times by the police. We take time on this show to showcase the temper tantrums of Karens in the wild. We do this not because we want to see people's emotional outbursts in public, but because these incidents are emblematic of a bigger societal issue taking place across the nation, and it has to be checked.
My friend, my big homie, attorney at law, Benjamin Crump.
I just want to thank you, man. When educated, articulate brothers like yourself speak truth to power, it makes a great difference in changing the landscape in America.
Listen, no matter what you do, don't allow the politics of ideology to evaporate the soul that still exists inside of you. They don't stop, I don't stop. Racism won't stop, I won't stop. Systemic bias won't stop, I won't stop. People still need health care, so I won't stop. People still need criminal justice systems reform, so I won't stop. You won't stop either.
Jake, you're a natural born athlete.
Welcome back to the Young Turks. I'm Rayvana, joined by a surprise guest, John Idarola.
Yes. I forgot how to get out of the studio.
You just got trapped in the square between me and host of Rebel HQ and Politics and Paper, Jackson White.
Somewhere over here. What's going on? It's good. This is the perfect lineup. You know what I'm saying? Anytime just two of us are on, it's great. But three of us, you already know it's going to be good. So,
all right, absolutely. All right, let's jump into this first story because we've got some news coming out about a topic Donald Trump's been pretty cagey on during his the past 4 years of his political career. So Donald Trump has been elusive about his official stance on abortion rights. However, a recent New York Times article reported that while in private, he's spoken in favor of a 16-week abortion ban. And according to an anonymous source who has direct knowledge of the conversation, Trump actually said that this is the one reason why he chose that number. Know what I like about 16? It's even. It's 4 months. And that is how he's making decisions about how he will govern women's reproductive rights, is just, I like that number. It's 4, it's perfect, it's even, it's a perfect number. And that is the country that we are residing in. But apparently, he's pretty adamant about leaving exceptions open for cases of rape, incest, and to save the life of the mother. From that New York Times article, when discussing prospective vice presidential candidates, Trump often asks whether they are okay on abortion. He is instantly dismissive when he hears that a Republican doesn't support the 3 exceptions. He tells advisors that Republicans will keep losing elections with that position. And you know what? He's probably right about that. It's a lesson that Republicans seem to just completely refuse to learn. But according to the article, Trump wants to wait until after the Republican primary to officially state his position on the issue because he's afraid of losing support from devout, they say, pro-lifers. I would call them forced birthers. Now, just a little bit of data on abortion. Nearly 94% of abortions happen before 13 weeks in pregnancy, according to data collected by the CDC. Nor is such a ban grounded in medical research. Even 15 weeks falls before the point when significant screens take place in a pregnancy to examine the fetus for rare but potentially fatal conditions. An AP/NORC poll released in July 2023, a year after Roe was overturned, showed a slim majority disapprove of a ban after 15 weeks of pregnancy. In the survey, Democrats mostly supported such a measure and Republicans mostly opposed it. Now, we're not sure yet, or it's unclear how Donald Trump is going to message on abortion going forward. But one thing we can be sure of is that Democrats are going to continue to hammer him on the topic. Now, earlier this week, Joe Biden posted a video on his Twitter page captioned, "I had the chance to meet with Amanda, a woman who nearly lost her life due to Texas's abortion ban. What she went through was barbaric and it's Donald Trump's fault." Now, here is that video.
It is unthinkable to me that anyone could cheer on these abortion bans that nearly took my life.
Mr. President.
Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Nice to see you. God, doing great.
Well, thank you very much. We're very excited to be here. It's important, and we know there's people fighting all over on every level, and that's what it's going to take.
We'll be here until the election.
And beyond.
Watch out. Watch out.
Over and over again, Donald Trump brags about killing Roe v. Wade. The stakes of this election could not be higher.
Now, I think that abortion messaging is going to be strong for the Democrats in this up ahead election, and they should message on it. However, it feels kind of hollow coming from Joe Biden, who has spent his career talking about how he sees abortion as a necessary evil and his Catholic faith guides him towards being pro-life. And that type of messaging has played directly into the Republican framing of abortion as some sort of moral issue, as opposed to a health issue, a reproductive rights issue. And that, as well as all of the safe, legal, and rare that the new Democrats have been pushing since Clinton, it hasn't been a strong message for them. It's harmed abortion rights, but I guess that's neither here nor there. And I do want to just say this also, because some people might hear 16 weeks, 4 months and think, well, that's not that restrictive. And as I said earlier, almost all abortions take place before that. But for me, it's important to not have restrictions placed on abortion, even if it seems like it's, reasonable. Because once you put restrictions on abortion, then the people who are in those exception cases, rape, incest, and particularly life of the mother, are going to have, instead of having a conversation between them and their doctor, now you're putting a lawyer into that. Now they have to debate whether or not that woman is sufficiently dying to receive this. And it also limits the amount of abortion providers in areas around the country. So people who need abortions aren't even able to access them. That's my opinion, Jackson. I'm interested to hear what you think of this story.
Well, we just had another Democratic victory up here in the New York where George Santos was. Sweet Susie Swayze, I don't remember how to exactly say his last name, but he just won. And what we're seeing over and over and over again, especially since the reversal of Roe v. Wade, now again, Donald Trump v. Biden, that's another issue entirely. But down ballot, Democrats are consistently winning off of this. This more so than anything else. Republicans have a lot of other issues when you look at policy, like their refusal to do anything about gun violence, not being on board with, like Social Security, welfare programs. But more so than anything else, the biggest issue with Roe is that, like, you can't quickly reverse what they did in the Supreme Court. These 6-week bans that all these states are continuing to push. And just in and of itself, it's never sexy to talk about. Like, there's no way for a Republican to talk about wanting to set a middle ground, because Roe was the middle ground. Like, this is one of those things, and I've said this on this network many times. It's, the pro-life movement should have remained a carrot dangling in front of the donkey's face. They never should have actually got that carrot. Because now what are you really going to do except keep losing elections? We still haven't had enough time for a lot of metadata to be collected, but already we're seeing, since the reversal of Roe, tens of thousands of unwanted pregnancies, unwanted births, which is just adding to poverty, blah, blah, blah. We already know all of that. But at the end of the day, this is a losing issue. There's no positive way for Republicans to talk about it. And it would be best for Donald Trump to not even mention it. But how can he not mention it? How can any Republican not mention it? So good news for progressives, I guess, ultimately, but bad news for the country for all the collateral damage that it's causing.
Yeah. Absolutely. And John?
Yeah, he sees this as like him being reasonable or whatever. All I see this as, another restriction. You weren't happy with Roe v. Wade. You weren't happy with the red places being able to totally outlaw it. Now you want to do the federal thing, especially when many Republicans have spent the time between Roe v. Wade being overturned and this saying, oh no, we're not going to do it at the federal level. It's states' rights. We're just doing that. And now all of a sudden it's coming at 16 weeks. And as you say, some people might see that as a reasonable point. I see it as their starting point. After all, at the state level, back before the destruction of Roe v. Wade, they didn't start with 6 weeks or whatever. It gradually has been lowered time and time and time again. They start at a number that they think is reasonable, but now it's done. We have a restriction and we can adjust the number way easier than we can pass it in the first place. And as Jackson pointed out, it isn't just that the pro-life movement or whatever wanted to restrict it. They want to do something. They want to be restricting. They're not going to be happy with anything. Even the complete outlawing across the country, by the way, is not going to be enough. That's why they're then going to come for contraception and IVF and those sorts of things. This is not a thing where they have a goal. It is a crusade that they are on that takes different forms depending on how much they've already succeeded. So if Donald Trump wants to have this be one of the things that the election is decided on, I say have at it. I agree with you that Joe Biden hasn't always said the right thing on abortion, but at the very least, if he's president, he's gonna veto any bill like this that they try to pass. Whereas Donald Trump, he says he's okay with 16, but if they take control of the House and the Senate and they say it's 12 or they say it's 8, what is Trump gonna veto that at that point? He's gonna give the middle finger to his base? Hell no. He's gonna sign whatever they send to him, and it might well be something far more radical than what he's saying now.
And just, on that note, We've covered a couple times now on this show, Republican operatives have been telling, senators, Republican members of the House to start messaging that they support the same level of restrictions that were in Roe v. Wade originally. But of course, that's not what they actually believe. They just want to be able to get that support because they know it's a losing issue. And Democratic strategists have talked about potentially putting abortion on the ballot in swing states where it's not already protected, because every time abortion's been put to the people, they have voted to protect it. So that could be a winning strategy for them moving ahead. But that's all the time we have for this first story. But stick around, because when we come back, Candace Owens went on a horrifically anti-Semitic rant on her show on the Daily Wire, and we're gonna cover that, so stick around.
Hey, who's this guy? Sorry, I was late. I'm going to explain that in the bonus episode for the members. I think you guys will get a kick out of it. Speaking of members, look at these amazing human beings who have donated at tyt.com. Soda K Prague, Retire 65, Ostershire, and then Answer Away, Coolest Geek Ever, and Driver Dragon all became members. You guys are awesome. We've got a guy who can drive dragons. We've got the coolest geek ever. I mean, how are we gonna lose? This is crazy. And we've got an answer that's already awake. So come on, you can't lose with this. tyt.com/join. Come join them. So speaking of which, Travel Linguist writes in, holy hell, lots of new members. Guess your marketing campaign's working. Admittedly, I waited way too long before becoming an annual member a couple of weeks ago, but finally here, keep it up. This is what I want to say about that. Guys, we put out the bat signal and you guys came. And in that analogy, we're not Batman, you're Batman. Okay, you're Batman. So that's amazing, I appreciate it. We got to keep it going. And I love that you guys are taking the place of these corporate donors so that we can keep going here at TYT. All right, America needs a reboot, says somebody put glue on John's seat. No, somebody created 3 different traffic problems for me, which again, I'll explain later, which is gonna be funny. Yes, the throat goat dragging, brother or sister, I don't know. Let's start to work on a different handle. Anyways, says, I'm gonna call you TG Dragon from now on. Wouldn't it be great if we had a president who used the bully pulpit to champion women's rights? A boy can dream. Oh, there you are, it's a guy. Okay, so yeah, wouldn't it be amazing if we had a Democratic president who used the bully pulpit? Period, ever, instead of just giving up Super Bowl interviews, Biden has done 1/3 of the interviews that Obama did in the same period of time. That's giving up hundreds of millions of dollars in free media that you could use to, if all you did was get on there and advocate for Democratic positions, we'd already be 1,000 times better off. Okay, Dragon with the girl tattoo says, every Republican I see interviews that says they won't vote for Trump is because of the women's issues like reproductive rights. It's the GOP's Achilles heel. That's also true. All right, we'll be back. That's how a natural born athlete does it. now, TYT. Well, you know what? Drop it. Turns out power panel delayed is not power panel denied. Okay, so Cenk Uygur, Ravana, and Jackson White with you guys. Sorry, it's my bad for being late. No, nobody put glue in John's seat. No, I didn't grow dreads, as there was another theory. So we got a lot of stories to get to. Benjamin Morrill and Sandals and Snow, thank you for gifting Young Turks memberships on YouTube. I'm not sure where the members are cut, like how many more I have to read, but we'll do it in the next break. Lots of stories to get to. We're gonna do them all, including a lot in the bonus episode.
Right, let's start here with one Candace Owens.
So I was trying to reconcile the Jewish people that I grew up with and who I love and who are my friends and who are my ex-boyfriend, I guess you would say, with this sort of DC Jew who was using these words not because they believed that what they were hearing was actually anti-Semitism or Jew hating, but to basically silence people. They were threatening people.
She can't be anti-Semitic, folks. She dated a Jewish guy once. But on Wednesday, Candace Owens went on an extended anti-Semitic tirade on her show, which you just watched a small portion of. But here's some very brief context behind why she's talking about this. It started with her explaining that someone accused her of anti-Semitism for speaking out against ads that the Israeli government aired during the Super Bowl. She argued that the ads were meant to distract Americans from the assault on Rafah that began Sunday. She also took issue with a third ad that was aired by an NGO, which asked viewers to call their representatives to demand the release of the Israeli hostages. She also questioned why Americans should call their elected officials about something happening in another country. But that wasn't the anti-Semitic part of her rant. She took a long time, of course, as you heard, explaining that she's known many Jewish people throughout her life. But the anti-Semitic part of her rant focused on the distinction that she created, I suppose, between who she considers to be regular Jewish people and who she considers to be, as she called them, DC Jews. Now, here she is comparing the latter group to Black Lives Matter.
This particular people that I've been talking about, that I'm talking about right now, represent a fringe minority of Jewish people that want nothing more than political power. It is just like Black Lives Matter. These people are ultimately Marxists, okay? And when Black Lives Matter was going around calling everybody racist, it was this implicit threat to white people. Do what we say, do what we want, or we will ruin your life. Why else would you refer to someone who is so clearly and evidently not a Jew hater as one? Because you want power. You want to also make Jewish people paranoid, right? You start using words like the Holocaust is going to be back. And of course, if you're a Jewish person, you hear that, you want to go, oh my gosh, like what is it? What should we be fighting? We got to fight that thing because I don't want another Holocaust.
I guess anti-Semitism is all in their heads, apparently, according to Candace Owens. But if you didn't think it could get any more disgusting, then brace yourself, because she's about to invoke deeply anti-Semitic tropes and even state that the so-called DC Jews should be weeded out.
These individuals are evil Marxists. They do underhanded things, underhanded tactics to freak people out and to ultimately cause division, right? Their goal is that they are willing to hurt regular, hardworking Jewish Americans so that they can gain political power. I don't hate Jewish people, I hate bad people. And these people are bad. We all should have the right to weed out bad people in our community, because on the left and on the right, there are bad people.
Now, after this, she went on to say she opposes any foreign aid, including aid sent to Israel. And then she expressed sympathy for both the Israeli hostages and the innocent Palestinian civilians that are being killed. I don't think that she actually cares that much about their lives. I'll say this, of course it's true that there has been cynically made accusations of anti-Semitism against people who are simply, pro-Palestine. People who are supporting the Palestinian people during the ongoing genocide have been accused of anti-Semitism. I'm sure I know that Cenk has, I'm sure Jackson has, but that's not what she's talking about. It's not, she didn't just make a statement about, the weaponization of these accusations where they really are not applicable. She then invoked the anti-Semitic trope that there is a cabal of Jewish people who are trying to control all political power in this country. And she has, I guess, declared herself the arbiter of who is actually a good Jewish person and a bad Jewish person, and just went on that anti-Semitic tirade. So I just want to make that distinction. But I mean, it just got worse and worse and worse. Cenk, what did you think of this?
Yeah, so you're right, of course. I mean, I've been in dozens of debates on this issue, and bad faith actors like Rabbi Shmuley and Alan Dershowitz, I say hi and they're like, anti-Semite, right? So are there individuals who act from bad faith? Of course, right? But people like Candace Owens are toxic to the cause of helping Palestinians and getting peace for Palestinians and Israelis, okay? And ending the occupation, ending the bombing. They're toxic to all that because they do not make an incredibly important distinction, one that is logical, moral, and factual, which is, we're not talking about Jews here. We're not talking about the Jews. We're not talking about DC Jews. We're not talking about Pittsburgh Jews. We're not talking about Santa Fe Jews, okay? We're talking about the right-wing government of Israel. And it's that specific because other governments in Israel have made peace deals. They have made a peace deal with Egypt, that's fantastic. If there was a peace deal today and we ended the occupation and you had 2 states and Palestine was free, terrific. Everybody go back to Israel and et cetera, on Israel, let alone Jewish people, et cetera. But when you start getting into this, it's the good Jews and the bad Jews. Now look, guys, sometimes people will say, hey, what are you doing? Why are you attacking Jewish people? Are you nuts? For example, some of the best fighters for the Palestinian cause in America are Jewish. So Bernie Sanders, historically, is the first person who's ever brought it up in a presidential debate stage and has always treated Palestinians with decency. And you might have disagreed around the edges in the beginning, but he's right now the senator that's pushing hardest for peace and for Palestinian rights, et cetera. And I can go on and on. There's a giant list, let alone Jewish Voices for Peace, et cetera. But when you start getting into, so when people point that out, including me, we're just saying like, obviously it's not the Jews, right? Apparently that's not so obvious to some people, but when she says, now remember guys, there are good Jews and bad Jews. And the ones that disagree with me are the bad Jews. And they're the ones that are controlling everything. Now it doesn't get any more anti-Semitic trope than that. No, everybody has their different point of view and they come at it from their own perspective and they're trying to fight for their own rights and their own beliefs, et cetera. And we get into the situation that we're in. So, and she's so nonsensical that I'm amazed that people keep up. Look, if she said, hey, I'm a right winger, I don't really care about the Palestinians, but I just don't want to send any money abroad. Okay, well that's an ideological position and it's got nothing to do with race or ethnicity or religion or whatever. I don't agree with that as a blanket statement, but okay, that I could accept that. Or she says, I don't, I want to get to peace, or hey, I want something good for the Palestinians. I'll take it, that's fantastic. But when she says, I'm for this position and I'm against the DC Jews, that's crazy, that's nuts. And now that I've said it so many times too, because it's so insane, sounds like a basketball team. Anyway, so look, she said they're Marxists. What? Like, I don't understand if the right wing understands words. Most of the supporters of the right wing government of Israel are right wingers. They're not Marxists. And you could have different issues with Marxists, but Marxists are generally in favor of peace. They're not in favor of occupation and imperialism I mean, I don't know what the hell she's talking about. To say that they're Marxists on top of the anti-Semitism and all of that stuff is lunacy. And look, this is not that complicated. She's the person who supported Kanye West even after Kanye West said complimentary things about Hitler. So this is not a good person to help the cause of peace for both sides. Jackson.
Yeah, I just really get a kick out of Candace Owens. She's so easy to make fun of because she is a profoundly boring person. She's so boring because everything bores her. You know, everything's stupid, everything's immoral, everything's too much, nothing's good enough. You know, whether it be she talking about people relationships and how their relationships should be and what a man should be and how women should be. And she has whole segments where she talks about Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce, 30 minutes or 60 minutes. And it's like the older she gets, I just turned 32. She can't be that much older than me. We're like 35, 36 or something. She just getting more and more bitter and more boring. Because what else is she gonna do? Is she gonna shift to the left? No, I mean, she might come out with some liberal, comments here and there, but like people won't really take it seriously. It might get some attention. Like she's totally boxed in. She has nowhere else to go. I mean, maybe people will still be listening to her do this crap in 10, 15 years, maybe not. I don't know. But like, she's just, again, every time I see her, I just think, wow, you're so boring. And I don't envy anything about you. I don't envy anything about the people in your life. And who really respects you, who's worth a damn at the end of the day? She's just a joke. Like I have no respect for her, and I have no problem saying that. Like I really don't.
And you make a really good point there, Jackson, because it's not even just Candace Owens. So many of the Daily Wire hosts, we've seen them have the shift where instead of making, a lot of long form political content, so much of what they put out now is just them reacting to TikToks and making fun of videos of, Gen Z kids on TikTok. And like Ben Shapiro, now it's a joke that people try to make insane TikToks that, is obviously not things they actually believe or how they actually behave, just to see if he'll react to it on their show, if he'll take the bait, because that has become so much of the content that they're producing.
Yeah.
Sad.
Yeah. They just. I was just saying that is true about them. Like, really, just they don't talk about politics that much, and the right wing more so focuses on culture wars. But they're really just cultural commentators. They are who's all up in everybody's business. That's what they do.
Yeah. All right. Last thing, guys. So there's this group. I'm so bad at this, and this will be a boomer moment. But Matisyahu. Okay. And so apparently they got a couple of shows canceled in Arizona because people didn't want to work. They claim because either because they were Jewish or they supported Israel. Don't do that. That's crazy. Now we're gonna all cancel each other and be internally divided in America. And don't ever do it based on ethnicity, religion, or race. I don't care. No, don't ever do that. That doesn't make any sense. We're fighting for justice, not injustice. And then even if it's like, well, I don't like their position on Israel. Well, do you want someone fired if someone else doesn't like their position on Palestine? Someone's position against the occupation? Because that's happened before. You don't want to go down that path. Someone who has a different opinion on Israel than you do, that's called America, okay? We try to convince each other and get to the right place. We don't cancel each other. We don't, take away people's livelihood. So under no circumstance should anyone go in that direction. Let's get back to talking about the real issues and policies and bring peace and security to both Palestinians and Israelis. And yes, definitely end the bombing, and yes, definitely end the occupation. Two-state solution. We'll be back. So guys, since I'm late, for the members in the bonus episode, we're gonna do all the stories. We're gonna make it longer than we normally do because I want to make sure you guys get all the content. And don't forget, Ray and Jackson are both Rebel HQ contributors. Of course, if you're not watching Rebel HQ, you're missing out. Great videos with so many quality contributors. And on top of that, Ray also hosts Taking the L podcast, and Jackson hosts Politics in Paper. Check those out. ShopTYT.com has a new members-only shirt. So TYT.com/notice if you're a member to get that shirt. Check out Dr. Richie on SiriusXM this morning. I'm sorry, this weekend. And this is funny. In our member section, Text Stan writes in, somewhere there's a Jewish guy telling his buddies he once dated a black girl to prove he's not racist. Yeah, look, guys, by the way, that whole some of my best friends are Jewish, black, Asian, whatever, fill in the blank. It's way overused. It's usually used by folks who barely know one person, etc. But yeah, if you knew a lot of Jewish people your whole life, 40, 50 years, 60 years, 20 years, whatever it is, you're more likely to know the context of their lives and to understand folks, right? But that doesn't mean you get to say those are the good Jews and those are the bad Jews, right? No one gave you that right. Okay, Mechanic66 says Candace must have a better offer than the Daily Wire and needs to get fired to take it. Of course, the reference is to Ben Shapiro, her boss, who is Jewish and very political. So I don't know if that puts him in the DC Jew category. I don't know if he's a starting guard or definitely not the center though. Okay. I Am Sock says, I want one right-wing person to define Marxist. Thank you, yes, I agree. They say that word, like I've never seen a right-winger use the word Marxist correctly, ever, literally, in 30 years of covering politics, not once.
I think it means gay, I think. That's what they think it means.
Okay, that was ridiculously funny. Anyway, so now more on that. Huang Jun says, I'm pretty sure that Candace, who works for a guy who said that people in Gaza lived in raw sewage, doesn't actually give a damn about the lives of innocent Palestinians. Look, it reminded me of Tucker Carlson back when he said he was against the Iraq war after it started and after he was originally in favor of it. He changed his mind 1 or 2 years in and he said, that's because I realized I don't care about the Iraqis. I think they're monkeys. So that's extreme right-wing view of what peace looks like. Eclectic Miscellaneous says, yes, it's been dropped. I don't know what I would have done if I had to wait until next week. Oh wait, I'm a member. I can actually watch a power panel being dropped on demand anytime. TYT.com/join. Back on TYT, we asked you to smash the join button, and you did. Keep it going, brothers and sisters. Here are the new Young Turks members that make this show possible: Mike Alvarez, Philippa Sukuru, Trey Noops, Eugene King, Sven Berstrom, Jim Koss, Peggy Reimer, Diana A, Josephine Jeter, D Alpha, Paul Harmad, Joe Ho 1, David Munoz, Esteban, Orion Terra de Siena, Adam Howell, Ambush Predator, Stella Mandagi, Kathleen Donnelly, Michael Salas, Laura Volko, Elliot Cole, Bradley Cullinan, Sanso Neisho, Julie McLean, Richie, Glennis Hurt, Jill Davis, Joe DeMeo, John S., Michael Davis, Rob Henderson, RJ Walker, Ainer Anison, Jamie Kyle Cummins, Thorpe Morton, Larry Brandon, Maya Cakes, David Hackett, Coco RN, Jam, TT, and thank you for joining at a higher level, which helps even more. For Trisha Briggs for upgrading, which you can also do through the join button. Faint Hope, Richard Canuck, Xanadu Dragon. You guys are the best. Keep it going, guys. I love depending on you rather than depending on corporate sponsors. All right, Ray, what's next?
Yes, well, the girlies are fighting and we're tuned in. Take a look.
Would you like to criticize Musk now?
No, I don't particularly want to. Look, I didn't criticize him really before, and I think that what the Twitter files are is a step in the right direction.
But it's the same Twitter that he's running right now.
Disagree with him.
That was journalist and co-author of the Twitter files, Matt Taibbi, getting thoroughly embarrassed by Mehdi Hasan last year. But now Taibbi is going through a very public breakup with the man he put his reputation as a journalist on the line to defend, Elon Musk. And just as a reminder, how much he was entangled with Elon Musk before. Prior to their falling out, Taibbi was seen as a close ally of Musk and was described by House Delegate Stacey Plaskett as one of Elon Musk's public scribes during a hearing in March 2023, and that couldn't be more accurate. So what is it that caused this rift? Why did they have a falling out? Well, some of you might remember the website Substack, where Taibbi publishes his work, announced it was creating a Twitter dupe. And Elon Musk, the petty bitch that he is, absolutely lost his mind. From the Mediaite article, Musk retaliated by blocking all links to Substack, which prompted Taibbi to announce his departure from Musk's platform. And now Taibbi is claiming that his Twitter account is still suppressed. So because of that, we got this juicy text exchange between him and Elon Musk. Let's dive into this. It's awesome. So Taibbi texts Elon, am I being shadow banned? To which Elon responds, we went on lockdown after discovering that Substack had stolen a massive amount of our data to pre-populate their Twitter ripoff. Looks like there is still a blanket search ban. Should be fixed by tomorrow. Going forward, tweets with Substack will not appear in For You unless it is paid advertising, just like Facebook, Insta, etc. They will appear in Following. The next day, Matt Taibbi replied with Elon, and this is my favorite thing that I could have read in these text exchanges. Elon, I repeatedly declined to criticize you and have nothing to do with your beef with Substack. Elon, I've been licking your boot so much, I'm choking on it. And you're giving me nothing? Says, is there a reason why I'm being put in the middle of things? This really seems crazy. And Elon replies, you are dead to me. Please get off Twitter and just stay on Substack. To which Taibbi replied, this is about the Substack thing? Seriously? Now, I also want to note the date of these texts. So the first group of texts was April 9th, and the second was April 10th of last year. Now that interview I showed you with Mehdi Hasan was April 6th, just 3 days prior to these texts, which I mean means I suppose that Elon didn't think that this was a good enough job of defending him.
Yeah, so I've got a couple of thoughts here. Number one, what happened to free speech? I thought Elon took over Twitter because he just was so adamantly in favor of free speech. And it turns out if he perceives that you're hurting his economic interests, he'll ban you, okay? First Amendment, my ass, free speech, my ass. And by the way, the shadow bans that they claimed were being done to the right wing, of course, they never proved that, never, had no evidence, right? But Elon Musk comes in, starts shadow banning people. It's all projection. They don't mean freedom of speech for everyone. They mean, no, I want to be able to say hateful things. And by the way, shadow ban, I'd love to do that to you. I don't want it done to me. Because the right wing doesn't think in terms of equality and justice. They think in terms of power. I want the power and I don't want you to have it. So they don't think it's hypocritical at all to say, I get free speech and you don't. And by the way, I mean, look, Matt has done some great journalism in the past. He's done some things that I don't agree with for over the last couple of years, etc. But that is not a good look to say that I have not criticized you on purpose to a billionaire who was kind of putting you in the spotlight during the Twitter files, etc. Not a good look at all. I would not have released that and I wouldn't have said it in the first place. And lastly, look, man, Elon's not mentally well. So he shadow bans people, anyone putting a Substack link. But Matt Taibbi is a tiny, tiny part of that. Matt Taibbi doesn't run Substack. Okay, it's got nothing to do with him. Elon doesn't just say, hey, I'm sorry, there's nothing I could do. This is a competitor of ours and we made this business decision. He says, you're dead to me. But he didn't even do anything. So that's just absolutely nuts. All right, Jackson.
Yeah, that is. It's like he really, I don't know, like he is his best friend and he went on a date with his wife or something. Like that's the type of stuff that you would say you're dead to me. Like you have to cross some type of extreme line. But you know, one of the things that really comes to mind for me when you look at stories like this and just how Elon Musk behaves is it really, among a million other things, points to how big of a fraud he is. Because how does he have time to act like this if he's this genius engineer who's inventing and solving all these problems? He's a CEO of all these companies. He has all this stuff going on at the same time, but he somehow at the forefront of his attention is his presence on Twitter. And if people are saying X, Y, and Z about him or not, like, how are you noticing these things at all? Because he's a fraud and he's a mascot. I think that's the best description I've ever heard of Elon Musk. He's just a mascot. But yeah, he's petty. And, hey, Matt, you stepped in it.
Yep. All right, we're out of time, guys. But for the members, we got a giant bonus episode. We're gonna do a bunch of stories for you guys, including now that Tucker Carlson is basically out of power in media. Now conservatives are dunking on him. They're clowning him left and right. We'll share that with you guys in the bonus episode for the members. tyt.com/join or hit the join button below. We'll see you there.
Let's see how Earth responds to that.